just saying.
Tycon Company, LLC, specializes in a wide range of construction services, which includes the removal and replacement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves in the quality of their service, but more importantly, with the...
Okay, there you go. Hi, this is The Truth Be Told on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, and with myself, T-Baby. If you have a business or a event that you would like promoted here on KUAW, please send us an email at kuaw985@gmail.com. You can call in anytime during this live broadcast, and we would love to hear from you. 816-599-6893. That number is scrolling at the top of your screen. So at any time during the show, during a live broadcast, you can call in. Feel free to call in. We are available 24/7 on the World Wide Web. That's www.kuaw.org. If you're watching me live on Facebook, hey, and if you're listening to me over the air via TuneIn, Periscope, YouTube, and however you may be watching us, you would like to follow us on Facebook, KUAW-LPFM 98.5. Make sure to like and subscribe to our Facebook page as well as our YouTube. We are available across all social media platforms, so Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, TuneIn, KUAW. And yeah, so make sure to like and subscribe to all our social medias and help, promote the shows that we have here on KUAW. Hey, Mrs. Walker. Okay, so first I want to talk about some things that's going on here in Kansas City. I believe it is next Wednesday. It's supposed to be like a meeting where they're voting or to get on the ballot the Crown Act. And so if you guys are not familiar with the Crown Act protects basically us from discrimination of not being able to be hired or because if you may not because of our hair. So you may remember a couple of months back, maybe even a year back, it was like a wrestler and they wouldn't let him continue to match without cutting his hair, and a coach cut his hair. And then as well as I believe last year, there were a couple of men, our teenage boys, young men, that they weren't allowed to graduate high school if they didn't cut their locks. As a woman, I know that, it's the main thing about looking unprofessional, like some of the hairstyles that they say we wear as like the braids, or if you have natural hair. And it's basically natural hairstyles, and it's natural hairstyles of our people. So it kind of reminded me back of what was going on with, what was his name? Old boy that was suing the cable people, TV things. I can't think of his name right now. If y'all know in the comments, let me know, tell me. But because they were trying to say that basically they were holding us back, like not trying to give us an equal share, equal opportunity in this certain field. And with that though, they would have to have proof that they were solely not getting in, basically not getting in the door because of the hue of their skin. Right, they had to be that it was solely based on that. With the hair thing, it gives like a way out. You know what I'm saying? Of basically saying no, it's not because they're quote unquote black. It's because the curly hair is unprofessional, the afro is unprofessional, the long locks is unprofessional. You know what I'm saying? They throw this word unprofessional around. And I remember when I was looking for a job when I had first moved back to Kansas City, and I had called my cousin. I was like, I'm going on these interviews. I said, should I pull my hair up, like try to pull my hair up in a tight ponytail, kind of wrap it tight so they can't really tell that that I have locks, or what. And even before I had locks, you have to think, should I straighten my hair? Like a lot of people, if you go professional, well, with our women, we straighten our hair, we do all these things to our hair, just to be seen as equal or professional in certain realms of, just in certain realms of life. And the Crown Act is going to ensure that we don't have to go through those type of things, which we shouldn't. One, we should not need a law to say that we can wear our hair however our hair grows. And it's crazy that that's the times that we live in, and because we really should not need things like that, but we know that we do. We know that we are systematically held down in all areas of life just based off of who we are. So we have to prepare ourselves, and we have to kind of, take ourselves around these type of things or whatever, just to basically be seen as equal or as worthy. And it sucks, and hopefully there comes a time that we won't have to go through those type of things. We will probably have to be empowered. You know what I'm saying? We would definitely have to be empowered, but the time is coming. You know what I'm saying? Everything that is built, Rome didn't fall in a day. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything that goes up must come down, and at some point, you know what I'm saying, it will turn back around. I don't know how long that will take, but that's a whole nother topic. We're not gonna get into that, but I'm just saying we shouldn't have to go through all these extra steps just to be able to work and make a living, or feed our children, things like that. That's why it's important that we build our own and support our own. It's like, just because we're in the same field does not mean that we're in competition. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to gain that mentality when it comes to each other, when it comes to our nations. When I be on Facebook, I see businesses and everything like that. I will follow a lot of business pages and people looking for things. I'm always tagging people that I know that, just do that, because you never know how much you could really be helping someone. And those are the type of things that we're going to have to do to be able to build each other up, so that we can stand strong against all the other things that we face out in the world. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I started talking about this Crown Act, and it's a meeting going on because if you have a story that, about being discriminated against because of your hair, you can actually go share at this meeting. And if you don't want to go in public, it's Wednesday at 8:45, and it's at City Hall. And if you don't want to go, you can email your testimony and things, as long as you email it before 8:45 on Wednesday, and so that it can be put on record, so they can know that people are actually out here, suffering from those type of things, going through those type of things or whatever. So yeah, that's my spill on that. Also, and this actually just happened. I think I just seen this or whatever come up on my thing. I know that this is like breaking news. I know it ain't just haven't been out there for long, but let's just first shout out to the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying, for coming through, just showing resistance and perseverance, and we just hope this thing just keep rolling. We got a lot of room on the bandwagon. Whoever not on there now, y'all can jump on in. We not gonna, it is what it is. But it, like I was just sharing, with my coworkers or whatever, it's like you had to be a real Chiefs fan to be able to appreciate what's going on right now. Because it was some times when, baby, we wasn't looking nothing like nothing. But it said, I just seen that it said Patrick Mahomes and his fiance were expecting a baby, which that's no surprise. You know what I'm saying? I knew that was coming. Which is, congratulations to them. It's a beautiful thing to be able to reproduce in the world and have that type of loving relationship and commitment with someone. And I know a lot of people there was a lot of things when when they first posted, like the news outlets and stuff first posted about them getting engaged, because once he got that $500 million contract, now everybody want to know about him and stuff. So anyway, once they posted about him getting engaged, they were saying how, and you know what? I don't know if I've ever really touched on the topic of interracial dating, or you know what I'm saying, like with us and Europeans, just because I don't want to come off as people be judging you, so if they don't really understand where you come from, people they call you racist and all this other kind of stuff or whatever. But also when it comes to men, from what I've have observed, um, men normally mostly follow like want like a woman that reminds like that's like their mother, or reminds them of their mother, not necessarily in looks or anything like that, but if you just look at the type of things most men, and it's the same thing with women, like most women look for men to like that, kind of reminds them or um resembles the character of their father. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it could be detrimental. It could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing, just depending on what type of parent that you were or had. When people don't understand, with him being mixed, and his mother being a European, it was most likely. And then another thing of it is he's been with her since high school. From what I know, it might have been younger than that. You know what I'm saying? But from what we know, we be all up in people business. But from what we know, since they were in high school or whatever, so throughout his time when he was just normal, not saying that he's not normal now, but before he had all this money, and that's one thing, is like when you get into these positions where you're making a lot of money, you have to be more what is the word I'm looking for? You have to be more careful, I guess, or I'm thinking of like discern or something like that. I don't know. I need Nelson Neal here to help me with my words. I always say that, but anyway, you have to use just a little more discern. I think that's what I really want to say when you're picking a partner, because you never know if they're just out there or wanting to be with you like for your money, or anything like that, just because you're famous, who you are. Like there's a lot of people that's like that. You know what I'm saying? They always say that that money is the root of all evil, and I really be kind of irritated when people say that, because I believe now I can say this, I believe the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And then it's also some Hebrew people that we've talked to or whatever, like things get lost in translation when it comes to the Bible and everything like that as well. But it's really just the love of money. Like everyone doesn't have a love for money, like, and that could really be like a thing in a relationship too as well. It's just how you guys view money, and everything like that. But anyway, you never know if that's the reason why somebody was there. So the fact that they've been together for so long, it's like I don't know why anyone would speak against or talk down him proposing to her and then them starting a family together. Like, to me, that was what was going to happen. That was what should supposed to happen. Like, people say that sometimes we look at these things as if they were like fairy tales or something, and people say life isn't a fairy tale and you shouldn't have. It's really more so of prepare for the worst type situation, and our type of thinking. And that's like, with me, I always, these little cash, I call them these little cash out of the word. I think, well, I know what I'm thinking about, but sayings like treat others how you want to be treated. Not saying, now let's break down treat others how you want to be treated, right? Because treat others how you want to be treated is very true. People say it in senses that in the way that they use it or whatever, and they call it a golden rule. But if you really break it down to it, if you go back further, that's really probably the simplest form of what that is, because that's really karma. It's like you treat everyone around you, treat everything around you how you want it to come back to you. You know what I'm saying? So it's really the law of reciprocity. And that's just like a simpler form of it, but people just say it all the time because it sounds good, even if they don't live up to it. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely something that should stick with us. But then you have so like I was saying, it's prepare for the worst. And I was like, how does that? I'm trying to think how it really goes, because I be trying to block these type of things out of my mind, because I don't like thinking like that. Like, I like to, because what you focus your energy on is more so what you're going to create around you. When you understand the way thought forms work and that your thoughts are things, you wouldn't really be out here. Oh, it's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I believe it is. And that's just not, yeah, that's not something that it's a backwards way of how your mind really works. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you when you focus what you focus your energy on, the main thing that you give the most thoughts to is what you're more than likely going to create in your life. You know, and it's like a lot of times things happen to us, and this is in all aspects of life. You know, and so that's why you have to be real conscious of, like, guarding your thoughts. And so I would do this hope that we should start expecting the best of things, expecting the best of situations. You know what I'm saying? Like that if you look at something, just trying to find the if you're gonna speak on it, you know what I'm. And that's, I don't know why I pick up that pen, but that's the main thing is if you're gonna speak on it, because so many times it's like how we know all these things about these people, these major sports figures and major celebrities and everything like that. It's like it's always that we can't we see so much negativity around what's going on in everyone else's life, and then where you focus on and you talk about it, it's like we should see the good in it. And if we're gonna speak on something, then speak on the good in it. That's like when it says, when if your neighbor receives a blessing, don't be mad at they blessing. you know Worship, thank, be grateful with them, because you know that your blessing is coming next. It's like we have to be able to start focusing on the good things that in everything. And we will see a drastic change in our lives if we learn how to control that aspect of our thoughts. And yeah, so I really congratulations, to them for that and everything like that. And then I had kind of touched on interracial relationships in there too. And yeah, I'm not gonna speak on it. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna speak. I'll save that for a total different podcast or whatever. But it's like, again, we have to stand on our own, what we know. You our own, vine and fig tree and everything. And what works for someone might not be what works for everyone. So it's like we really just gotta focus on self and creating the reality around us. So that's what I'm gonna say on that. But again, credit, shout out to the Chiefs for that going on, because definitely all the excitement around that bring in momentum. We need that because we have so much of the other aspect in the city going on as well, with all the killings and um, homicides. I had seen that. I think I spoke on. I know we probably didn't came up about what 4 or 5 homicides this last week. I think so, and it was a shooting. I think a cop shot somebody, and like near Swope Park. I don't think they killed him. I'm not gonna say I don't think they killed him. I know they didn't kill him. It wasn't fatal, and uh, we just, like, you can't really do too much talking on that. Just say be involved and make sure that we try to mentor to these youth and don't let them fall behind and get sucked up to all these ideas of what it is to be a. I don't even want to say be a man, because it ain't even just men, it's women too. It is. It's women too. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Just, I guess, just be tough. Just be. It's kind of like a survival of the fittest kind of mode or something. Oh, I kind of want to get out of this because it was a another little post that I had shared that I wanted to touch on before I go to break and get into what I really want to talk about, or what I'm really not really want to talk about, but the relationship portion of mine, because that's gonna be good. But I had posted this post, and I went, and it said, man-made. It said man-made car, man-made plane, man-made boat. Woman did what? Or yeah, woman did what? This man got 50 comments too, because I said, made man, and then you get a lot of different aspects and talk back on that when you make that statement. And not saying that before I go into that, let's just say this. I said, because I told someone, I said that I feel like um that is the most important thing. I'm not saying that that's the only thing that women have did. You know what I'm saying? We know the GPS was created by a woman. We know the story of Hidden Figures. We know that the United States ever making it to the moon was because of a woman. Like there's a lot of technology, hair sales, Madam CJ Walker with entrepreneurs. Like there's a lot of different things and could contributions that we know women have made into society, and it really kills me that we somehow come at odds with each other over these type of things or whatever, as a as a human race. It's like we need to learn how to, and I'm sorry, I seem like I'm just always like just trying to tell y'all what y'all need to learn to do or whatever like that, but it's not like that. But come together to become a whole, and it's like to understand that we together we are a stronger force than we are separate. And that's a mentality that a lot of people are getting out of, which is it's kind of gonna lead into the second half of the show as well. But it's a mentality that a lot of people don't really hold anymore, and they they don't see the need for companionship. And yeah, that's how I want to say that. And so I said to him, it's not the only thing, however the most important. And when I say it's the most important, it's because now we know that in the okay, we have been taught that a baby needs both to be produced in the womb and to be developed in the womb or whatever. And so but however, we know that there are also now female plants that could reproduce, and there are also many animals that could reproduce without fertilization of an egg, I say. And I put that in quotes because it's saying that there's other, when you do the research on it, there's other fluids, or there's other things in the body that could fertilize outside of sperm. So yeah, anyway, that's another different thing. That's totally different or whatever. But anyway, the actual process of the to be able to, the channel, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, like the channel to a portal that's actually open to when you actually come into this realm of manifest or whatever. It's kind of more so what most people mean when they say she made man or whatever. In my mind, that's what I take from all these comments that we had on there. And then they was talking about the women's right to vote. Now the women's right to vote and how women had that thing all come along or whatever. Now we know the women's right to vote was really not for our women. It was more so for European women who didn't want their husbands having all this power, that they had, because at the end of the day we didn't really have any at this time, during that time or whatever. And when you look at the whole feminist movement, and I know I get on like feminist head all the time, but when you look at the whole feminist movement, it wasn't really when it comes to our nation of people, it wasn't really a good thing. It wasn't really a great thing that happened to us. So it's not one of those things that I always would throw out there to just put it out there like a mark. I guess it was a mark in history, but I'm just gonna say to me, when it comes to our family structure and the dynamic that we should be trying to create amongst our nation, it did more damage than good. But yeah, so it was a lot of different things. Oh, and then so with that came the whole story of Adam and Eve, and then Eve coming from Adam's rib and eating an apple and getting them kicked out of the garden. And so you have men that have this type of mentality or whatever, and it makes me think, it's like if you have this type of ideal of womankind, womankind or whatever, um, how can you truly like just really love and respect the woman? You know what I'm saying? Like if you were have this type of programming, I guess, in your head, um, how could you ever like, see a woman as your equal? And I guess that's a lot of issues that we have now um amongst everything in the workplace. You know what I'm saying? It's probably why women get paid less than men, even if they're doing the same job. Just in a relationship stance, like a lot of men think that women should submit basically to them or whatever. And if you basically are not submitting to your man, then you don't. That's why you don't have a man. Oh, that's not what I wanted to pull up. I'm sorry. I was trying to pull back up my um watch party. Okay, I'm sorry, but yeah. So, and they say that they had this independent woman type thing mentality that is kind of taking over, women. And not saying that there's anything wrong with it, because there's not. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing against being independent and being able to stand on your own, but women are more so getting pushed into that type of roles just because of being single parents, or being head of the household, or making more money than their significant other and anything like that. Even though money does not equate to power. I'm not saying that, but we're kind of being forced into these roles of masculinity. Really, that's what it is, or what it should be looked at as in my eyes. But yeah, so that, and they get more so we're not looking at each other as equals, or respecting each other as equals, and have a problem more so of coming together. And it's like we're always at odds, and they say, just for even with the whole thing going on about men, or our men not protecting our women, and the whole thing with Tory, and so even with that whole thing or whatever, it's like it's always trying to turn us against each other, and we have to be able to fight these things. And that's another thing, that's what I want to talk about coming up on the second half of the show. And just because, and that's really why I do the second half over like a relationship topic, or something that has to do with coming together with things like that, because we're getting further and further away from it within the music, within TV programming. There's just like the mentality of the generations coming up. It's like they don't have any sense of wanting to find like a lifelong companion, or and then also with so much stuff going on in the world, you know what I'm saying, in which we gonna talk about it, but it's like when you start becoming aware of the surroundings in which you live, when I mean by that, I'm saying the United States of America, it's like there's a lot of things that come out that would keep you from making that type of step, or making that type of commitment with someone. So we're going to go on break. And then when I come back on the second half, or so you guys bear with me. Are you ready? I know. Oh, okay. You guys bear with me, and I'll be back. Oh.
Hey everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the Zodiac days. Be sure and check us out. We're going to be here every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's Old School with Scatter. Scatter's back. Check me out on the internet, KUAW.org. For all you Paseo Central Manulite people, want you to remember that in the 60s and the 70s, we had some good music. If you want to hear some of the Temptations, some of Smokey Robinson, some of the Tim Free, things that you don't get every day, DJ Scatter remembers he's going to have it for you.
Bank of Blue Valley is a proud sponsor of KUAW Radio. At Bank of Blue Valley, we believe that an understanding of financial value sets individuals up for a strong future. Whether you want to talk about checking and savings accounts, review lending alternatives, or discuss starting your own business, we have the right people to listen and advise. Visit us at bankbv.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to 98.5. This is KUAW, Kansas City, Missouri. Glad you're listening. Keep tuning to the new voice in Kansas City.
Hi, my name is Felania Johnson, and I'm a freshman at Purcell Academy of Fine and Performing Arts.
My name is Mayan Charity, and I'm a 7th grader at Lincoln College Preparatory.
STEM is a program about science, technology, engineering, and math. More girls our age should get more involved in the program because there's a shortage of black girls in STEM.
African American women make up just 2% of engineers. Roughly 1/3 of students of color express an interest in STEM. Most black women think that STEM is too challenging. We are sisters in STEM, and we are encouraging young black teens to join STEM.
If you're interested in more information, please contact Ina Montgomery at 816-866-6340.
Tycon Company, LLC, specializes in a wide range of construction services, which includes the removal and replacement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves in the quality of their service, but more importantly, with the quickness in which they provide those services. Their primary goal and objective is to achieve 100% customer satisfaction, and they won't settle for anything less. Their crews travel within a 100-mile radius of the Kansas City, Missouri metro.
Alrighty. Oh, okay. All right. Hey, again, I appreciate you guys bearing with us and letting us get our sponsorship out the way. Of course, again, if you have a business or an event that you have going on, you will like it advertised here on KUAW, make sure to send us an email at kuaw985@gmail.com. And so, yeah, we're going to get right into this. So I want to talk about, because I seen this scenario and I want to talk to y'all about this, okay? So I seen this scenario, and it was a guy and a woman. They had been together for 9 years. They had an 8-year-old daughter. At this time, they had an 8-year-old daughter. At the beginning of the year, they going on 9 years, probably would have been their 10th year. The woman gives the man an ultimatum: you're either going to marry me or leave. The man decides to leave, right? Okay, so fast forward, he decides to leave. So now he hasn't seen his daughter since he left. She's basically keeping him away from her. He said that now, okay, so before I get into the kind of the bottom half of that, let's go back into the top of this, right? So they have been together for 9 years. I had seen this meme that said that a man really knows within the first 6 months of dating you if he's going to marry you or if he would marry you. So to all my people out there in the comments, relationships, let me know if you think that is a good enough time frame. Now I know I speak on time being an illusion. You really can go off your energy and your vibe and how you feel and everything like that or whatever. But in 6 months, do you really feel like that you know someone well enough to know that you will want to spend the rest of your life with them? I personally think, it will take a couple of more years. You might want to get engaged, you know what I'm saying? Be engaged for a year or two maybe or whatever. And then, make that commitment of getting married. But we're going to talk about that too, because that was one of the main things he was saying too. And so he decided to leave. Now, he'd been with this woman for 9 years, had a 8-year-old daughter with her at this time, and he decided to leave just at the audacity, I guess, that she would try to give him an ultimatum. And when we are dealing with the opposite sex, I feel like I don't think that's enough time. Yeah, I don't think that's enough time either. But so when we are dealing, and hey Destiny, we are dealing with the opposite sex, I feel like we have to take into consideration the different energies that we possess. Oh, I hit the table and messed up my thing. But the different energies that we possess. And I know that we both are, that man and woman both contain a lot of energy, or the same energies. It's just one is more prevalent than the other, but we all are composed of both. And I just don't think that when you're dealing with a man, with masculine energy, someone that's like in a masculine state, that giving them an ultimatum is really gonna get the answer that you are really wanting, or if it's gonna give the proper meaning of what you're trying to get across to this person. And when we're having these conversations with our significant others, even within our friendships, like, we have to know each other to kind of really know these things, just even about communication, and find better ways to communicate our feelings. I feel like that sometimes we suppress that in young boys, so they kind of grow up into men that don't really know how to express their feelings, like, or really know how to understand or control whatever emotional state they may be in. And it leads to a lot of problems, in relationships and everything. So I definitely feel like, it's kind of with the ultimative thing, women, you really shouldn't do that. You really, there's other ways, there's better ways to really express yourself and get your feelings across and everything like that. So the ultimative thing was, kind of out the window at the beginning. And so then he's decided to leave. But of course, the man, you're not gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so he left, and he left his daughter. Now, at 8 years old, I don't think you really. I feel like he should have been a little bit more responsible, with the what is the word I'm looking for, with the cultivating of his daughter, because now his daughter doesn't get all the adult things that's really going around, the whole situation or whatever. All she sees that her daddy's not there anymore, and so, and now he hasn't seen her in 8 months. Like, you go from seeing someone every day of your life, someone being there, especially as a father figure, why it's so important to have both parents. And when you have both parents, you have to really try to cultivate that. It's like we take so much for granted, and thinking that we have more time, or thinking that we have time to fix this or time to fix that, when really time is an illusion. You never know. Like, you never know what the next, what's going to be coming next at you, or what's going to be happening, to you next, or whatever. And so we make a lot of decisions based off of, we're gonna have time, and we can't really do that. And so now this little girl has, she never know what's going on in her mind, or what type of abandonment issues that is gonna cause, that she's gonna have to grow up with, just all out of this situation, or all on just how two adults chose to handle a situation. And so then he tried to come back and compromise with her by saying that, he would do a ceremony, and wanted to do like a celebration of love in their union and things like that, which sounds like a wedding, right? Now, here's the kicker. He didn't want to sign the marriage license. Now, as a person who I am, and I would consider myself, very aware of a lot of things, very conscious of a lot of things. I study a lot of different things. And when you think about this marriage license, in the midst of how women have been raised up to, this is like a ultimate like goal, or ultimate certificate of life, just being someone's wife, getting married, this and that. It's crazy, because another one of my friends was just having this conversation over brunch. But you know how women are, raised up to want to become a good wife and find a good husband and do this like this. So ultimately the goal of getting married, which men are not raised like that, so I don't even know why they raise women like that. Men don't even want to be in relationships no more. Like, but for the most part, a lot of them, I'm not gonna say all of them, but most of them. And then if it's the case, it's not even want to put in the work to what it takes to actually be in a relationship in a sense. But anyway, I digress. Um, they grew up with this mentality of, just wanting to be married. And then we understand that, I always take it back when I had this conversation with people and we talk about this marriage things, right? I always take it back to, at a point, we couldn't even get what they considered legally married in their government. We couldn't even, that's where the whole concept of jumping the broom came from, right? And so it's like, we couldn't even, partake in that, and it is part of the mentality of want to be included. It's kind of the same way, kind of how we got into integration. But anyway, it's like we want to be included. Like you tell us that we can't do something, like, no, now we want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Now we want to do it, even though if it's not the best thing that we should be doing. So, but anyway, but this marriage and a contract, what most people now look at it as a contract with the government, right? The Texas, hey Michelle, it's like the taxes, just the legal ties and everything that goes into it and everything. People don't even look at it as a sign of a union or love really anymore, just because, but the divorce rates are high. A lot of people, just like people get married or rush to get married, they get divorced too, and the goal is to not get divorced or whatever. So if you're making this lifelong commitment and it's what it's supposed to be, it's like if we weren't really chasing after the paper of it, and we were really yearning for the connection with someone, the soul connection with another person or whatever, then we wouldn't find ourselves in the situation of where we have such a high divorce rate, or where you're getting an ultimatum after 9 years leaving your 8-year-old daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't have no type of things. And then as a woman, I feel like within 9 years of someone, and this is why we go back to when we were talking about, is 6 months really enough time to really get to know someone to say that that's who you want to be with for the rest of your life? And because it's like, if you know that you have a consciously, whatever you want to call them, conscious, woke, aware, partner, you know what I'm saying, you will understand their take and understanding on what it means to be one, to be a union, to be in a relationship, to be connected, and their views on these are the type of things that we have to start getting out in the beginning of in the dating stages, and I've also seen this thing of how I was saying that women don't like to date. It's like we find one guy, we go on a date with him, we have fun, we like him, we just start focusing our whole attention on that one guy, and and we don't like date other guys or talk to other guys. Not saying that you have to be in no type of intimate relationship with these men, because that's another thing that we need to know how to get out of. But is the mentality of just exploiting our bodies just to be in a relationship. I'm so much say, and so yeah, but so they don't, really date around. So it's like, are we really getting to know someone before we get into these situations of where now it's like in this instance, 9 years later, there's a child involved, and you find yourself in a situation that was most likely not what you wanted, not what you foreseen, or anything like that at the beginning of it, all because you didn't ask certain questions, or all because you didn't get a real good understanding of the person that you were with. Like, sometimes we focus so much on potential or what it is that we want. They say, especially with women, they say that we always think that we can change a man, I guess, or change a man's perspective of what is life. And we have to start respecting each other for who we are. At that point, like, if I know who you are, you know who I am, and we have a mutual respect for each other. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to agree with it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have to go along with it. But it's a love, it's a respect, and a lot of things that I really don't have. I guess I can get into that a little bit, because I wanted to talk about, the ideal of love. A lot of people will try to hold on to things or tell you that I did this, but because I love you, or because they love me, or because he loves me, and I was speaking on it, I think it was last week, but I'm saying it has to be a lot more, and I'm not necessarily a lot more, but there has to be other things besides love. Like, why is love something that we look at as so exclusive for us to give, when we should be loving everyone, period? You know what I'm saying? And people say, oh no, it's a different type of love. No, love is love. Love is an energy. It's an action that you give off. You know what I'm saying? It's certain things that you do for people, that you love them. It's like, I love you, so I'm not gonna run you over with my car. Like, I love you, so I'm not gonna deny you. If I see you in need, I'm not gonna deny you of something that I may have if I have it to give. Like, there are certain things that, out here that we should be doing, for humanity. That's why it's like in the temple they say you have to learn to love instead of hate. We should be loving everyone. That is not something that we feel like, oh, here's my little ball of love and you can have it, but only you can have it. And so since you have it, I should be able to disrespect you, not be loyal, not do this and do that, but I love you. Like, no, that is not something that is not saying that it's not special, or not saying that it's not critical. What I'm saying is the action of love, the frequency of love, is something that we should be giving off and striving to be dwelling on. The frequency of love every day, every second, every hour that you are on earth. That is what you are. So that's what you should be striving to do. So we cannot sit up here and act like that there all these other type of things can just go on because I love you. No, you have to respect me. Can you support me? Like, there's a lot of different things. And when it comes to spirituality and emotions and things like that, like, those type of things go in with that, because you can't you have to be you will have to be equally yoked. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and it is, even if you're not equally yoked at the time of meeting, like, you have to be able to grow to that point. Like, you have to have you have to have roots that are able to come together, and you have to find out what those roots are. And sometimes those roots might look good, but it just might not be what's for you. And I don't necessarily have to hate you because of that. I don't have to dislike you because of that, or anything like that. Like, that's why I think I have so much of the different views on quote unquote exes. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if I loved you once, I love you. Hey, cuz, hey. It's like, if I loved you once, then I'm always gonna have love for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not just gonna stay in a situation just because, oh, I love you, and allow all these other things to be going on around me. Like, that's just not how it works, and we have to get out of that mentality that this is just our little secret ball to give to one just person. No, this is who you should be giving to everyone, and that's just, it's like how we talking about treat others how you want to be treated. But really, it's when you understand, it's not even understanding that it's an action. It's when you can go above that and understand that it's an energy, that it's an energy field, that it's an energy frequency that you can actually dwell on. And then that's how the law of Islam, Brother Johnson Bay, but that's how the law of attraction works. When you're dwelling on that frequency of love, when that's what's given out, then that's what you're getting back, in all aspects of your life. Those things, whatever the things that make you feel love, is what you're going to attract to your life. So you can call it karma, you can call it the law of attraction, you can call it, I don't know, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but that's what you have to understand of the meaning of it. And we can't just can't just keep holding on to this understanding of that it's just this one, my little secret ball just to give to one person, and because I give it to you means that you can do whatever else around it. But since I love you, you have to stick with me and let me do all these other kind of things or whatever. And so I'm saying, like, that's important for us to learn those type of things about each other in the beginning, before we find ourselves in these situations of where you leaving after 9 years, when you don't have the ideal of, or because you yearn for the concept of marriage. And as women too, we have to understand as well of the differences of how we are raised. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying, women are raised with that want. They're raised with that yearning. Men aren't. They're not really taught to some, if they really read their Bible when they was young, but I still don't even think they learned from that verse. What it says, like, he who finds a good wife finds a good thing, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like we just have to get out of that type of mentality and understand the type of things that we're coming in, and understand it as well. See, it's more than the paper. And I feel like women get caught up on the paper and they get caught up on the ceremony. It's more than that. The yearning is not after the paper, not after the ceremony. The yearning is the connection that you connect with another soul. The type of things that you can do. And I'm not one of those type of people that believe that you only have one soulmate and you wander this earth searching for them and all this other kind of stuff like that. Like, no. But there are our spirits do dwell in tribes. You know what I'm saying? Our ancestors, things like that. So there are things that attract you to someone, that if you're patient enough, if you're on the frequency of love, to be able to understand and comprehend what's in front of you. Because a lot of times in our lives, it's not that what's happening in front of us is that we don't really understand it. We're not on the frequency to receive it. A lot of people is like, well, I've been praying for this and I've been doing this, but if you're not on the right frequency to receive what it is that you're asking the universe for, you're gonna miss it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's the same thing with relationships. You have to be able to see what it is that you are looking for in another person, so that you're able to recognize it when you see it, and not get so caught up in the ideal of the paper or the ceremony, or just having someone, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, companionship is great. You find companionship in a lot of different things. You find companionship in friendships and family relationships and all type of relationships. It's all about the dynamic in which you create it. We just have to we can't get caught up on this intimate connection. Lusting is really lusting. We've been programmed as human beings, you know what I'm saying? Where we turned into lustful creatures, and we had to get up out of that if we really want to find that ideal person, that lifelong, partner, to where we're not having these popcorn relationships where you have the 30, 50, 40-year relationships. They come more frequently and become the standard. It needs to become back the standard. See, it's like and I'm not saying the marriage and the ceremony and the license or anything like that. I'm just saying the true connection, like the true companionship, like the true bond with another person, like a real bond with another person, like that you could really be. That way all their faults don't seem so big. It's like there's things that you learn about each other, things that and it's more. It's a friend. It's way more than love. Like I was saying, it's a friendship. It's respect. It's it's a lot of different things, and we just have to be more conscious of what it is that we're allowing in these smaller relationships that we're in while we're finding or developing this bond with someone. And really put in the work into knowing who that person is, so that you don't run into these type of things later. Because like I said, in this little scenario, being 9 years together and having an 8-year-old daughter, it's like she's all that he ever known. You know what I'm saying? And all because of this blurry communication from when we first met. Now this little girl possibly gonna grow up with abandonment issues. The mother wrong for keeping her away from her, but that's a totally different story and topic of I don't know how mothers feel they have more rights than fathers these days, but hey, we don't even have enough time to get through that because my time is up. So, just real quick, the Holy Covenant Asiatic Nation, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother have given ye suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in our Father's house. When you separate in the world, remember the relation that bondeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brothers in adversity, assist him. If thy sisters in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy Father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Peace.
Hey everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the Zodiac days. Be sure and check us out. We're going to be here every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock as Old School with Scatter.